If you'd like to be a guest on the show, the application form is in the show notes. We can discuss emotional abuse, toxic or narcissistic relationships of any kind, parenting after trauma, ADHD, autism, or parenting ADHD or autism. I would love to hear from you. As ever, take care. Bye. Coming up in this week's episode, there is such a sadness in this level of self-expectation of I don't do enough. And yet, all I hear is that you were doing and doing and doing. Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen Villas. Hello everyone and welcome back to The Liberation Effect. Today I'm joined by Isabel, who got in touch originally actually just with a question. Wasn't intending to come on the podcast, but I wrote to her and asked her if she would come on the podcast because the question that she has is one that I think is really important and something that is not talked about an awful lot. What Isabel was writing in about was the fact that by protecting herself in relationship to her parents, who she has a difficult relationship with, it means sacrificing potentially the relationship with a disabled sibling, and wanted to talk to me about the grief and guilt and how to survive that when choosing herself over her sibling or the relationship with that sibling. Isabel, is that a good enough summary of what you wrote about and what you're here for?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a perfect summary. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. So what is it that you would like to leave this session with today? What would you like to walk away knowing or feeling or with, really?
Really just need to just sort of have that conversation. There's not much advice when there is a disabled sibling, and it's hard to let go of that guilt of, as a child, you're brought up with you are going to be looking after your sibling when we can't do it anymore. And you're going to be responsible for them. You need to be a strong sibling for them. And as things deteriorate, it's very hard to find out what to do. And I feel a lot of guilt, and it's very hard. And my mum takes a lot of, weaponizes that guilt a lot, and it's hard to deal with.
You said you grew up with the kind of message that you will be responsible for that sibling.
That's right.
Could you say a bit more about that and what that looked like and what it felt like?
I've always been very protective of my sister, and my parents have always told me that, I would have to look after her when we're older, that she would be in my care when they couldn't do it anymore. And that would be, her living with me, her staying with me, not going into like a group facility or an aged facility.
Okay. That sounds like at what age did that start, that messaging?
It's my whole life.
You don't remember it? Yeah. Never not being there?
No, it's always been, you're the big sister, you have to look after her. I'm the oldest, and it's just the two of us, so I don't have any other siblings to rely on.
Okay. And without being too revealing in terms of identification, what kind of disability are we talking about in terms of dependency and support?
She's got both a mental and a physical disability, so 24-hour care is needed.
And I'm just curious to understand whether you were given any choice in whether or not you would be looking after her when they got unable to do it, when they became unable to do it.
No, and I've been doing it from a young age. I've been giving medication and doing medical procedures that she needs for everyday support. I've done that my whole life since I was a kid.
Can you hear from my side how that might sound?
I don't know. I guess it sounds like an involved sister.
An involved sister, did you say?
Yeah. Like there's times where, like, if my mum wasn't up to doing the procedures that were needed, I would do it. Or if we were staying with a relative for a weekend or something like that, like it became my responsibility for two reasons. One, because I could do it. And secondly, I didn't like how other family members would try to take care of her. and I felt I could look after her better. So I took on a lot of that care, and I guess they let me.
They let you?
Yeah, they taught me how to do it, and it became my responsibility.
What's the age gap between you, roughly?
2 years.
Hang on a moment. Okay, so there's only 2 years between you. She
Yeah,
is significantly disabled, needs 24-hour care.
yeah,
And from a very young age, you were being told that you have to do this level of care for her.
yeah.
And that
And that would be,
go on.
and that would be my responsibility. That was my life.
How do you feel about that now? What do you think about it?
I feel like now that there's a lot more care available,
Right.
and she does get a lot more outside care. And I think now my future role would be that she would still live with me rather than in a home, but I would have support in terms of carers and day activities for her to do.
How do you feel about the idea of taking her on when your parents aren't able anymore?
It's daunting. It
It,
is daunting.
yeah, I mean, I think for
And there's
me,
a,
what I hear is that there's no choice in the matter, that you've been conditioned into doing it, that, you know, there's been this kind of constant narrative of you will take on this responsibility. This will be your job,
yeah,
which I always hate asking this question because, you don't know the reasons behind why or why not. And so if this is a difficult question to ask you, I apologize in advance. But do you have children?
I don't, unfortunately.
Okay. So if you had children and one of them was disabled, would you expect the other one to be responsible for them to this level, do you think?
I don't think I would.
Okay. What's happening right now?
I I sort of see a friend of mine who has got a child who's got significant mental disabilities, and how they've brought up their child very differently, where
Right.
that child's been given support and a whole different upbringing, and the other children have not been, I want to say the word groomed to be the protector, the looker
Mm,
after, whereas I sort of have. And I guess that's probably where a lot of the guilt stems from, because between being scared that my sibling's gonna outlive me, and I don't have any children to look after, that on
mm,
top of the difficulties that I do have with the whole other narcissism side of things,
mm.
it's hard to know, am I doing the right thing? Well, I don't know. It's very hard to navigate to determine if am I going north in this, or am I going south? Am I taking the wrong path?
Right. And so when you talk about that guilt, what does it tell you? Say this is evidence of something. What would it say to you?
It would say you're a bad person because you're not being the big protective sister, and you're choosing your own life over hers.
So you prioritizing yourself makes you a terrible human being.
Yeah,
If you were to observe somebody else, would you feel the same way in your situation?
probably not.
If you saw me saying I refuse to look after my disabled sister, or, would you think I was a bad person?
No, I wouldn't.
Why
I think
not?
everyone, I think everyone's got different capacities in different situations, and I just feel that because I've always been her protector, that's what I should be doing.
Okay, I should be doing.
Yeah,
Let's just go to a want for a moment. What would you want to be doing?
I'd be. I know this sounds horrible, but Like, I'd want to outlive her.
Okay.
I
Why
want to
does
outlive her.
that sounds horrible because why?
You shouldn't wish somebody to die.
But you're not wishing her to
um,
die.
yeah.
Let's go down deeper into that. What are you actually wishing for in that moment? When you're saying I'd like to outlive her, what are you saying? Really?
then I then I know she's not left behind. Yeah, that she's not left behind. That she's not, someone stuck in a nursing home that nobody ever sees or visits and has anything to do with.
So if you were to outlive her, it would relieve a burden of guilt, a burden of responsibility because she wouldn't have any needs to be met when you weren't there.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you see why that's not wishing someone to be dead?
No. Yeah,
No.
I can see that now.
Okay. So there is a very big difference between wanting someone dead and recognizing the fear of what happens if you're not there to protect, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's something I would just want to go back to, which is the word groomed. You used the word groomed to
Yeah.
describe how you had been treated versus watching your friend and her children.
I think because the way that my parents have always told me that I'll look after her and that is our future together.
Mm,
Whereas I don't think there was ever a conversation about you can go and have your own life, you
mm,
can go have your own experiences. And I do currently, because of my work, live a distance away from my family and from my
mm,
sister. And that's been a constant guilt that I've been away, is that I'm not there to help. And it's often said, if you were living here still, if you were still in my house, you would still be able to help, and you're too far away to help. And so it's either go home and help
mm.
and look after her, which is what my whole life I've been told to do, or it's have my own life and have
And
my own experiences.
and
Uh,
if you choose to have your own life and your own experiences, what does that mean about you?
I don't know. I've always been a sister. Yeah, it's hard. I feel like I'm not being who I'm supposed to be.
In which way? Which in that you're not.
I'm not at home looking after her. I'm choosing to have a career and to have a life and live where me and my husband like to live versus
Mm.
being at home, being a full-time carer.
It's really interesting that you keep calling it home.
Yeah,
Do you
I
notice
haven't
that?
lived. I haven't lived there for 20 years, and I still call it home.
It's I actually wonder quite often, and I'd be really intrigued by listeners responding if they feel that they have to call the family of origin situation or wherever the parents are home, because I
Yeah,
think there's a conditioning actually that might happen that we are taught, or because of that conditioning around us before everything, that is your home and you're not allowed to claim anywhere else as home. Anyway, it's an intriguing kind of thing because you keep calling it home, but you said you hadn't lived there for what, 20 years?
yeah.
And so you live with your husband and you're far away and you wouldn't like think of this as your home?
I do think of this as home, but when I refer to places like when we travel and visit, it's like, oh, we're heading home. So it's seem to have two homes.
Okay. So just an interesting noticing of the tie that's being kind of there's lots of invisible tying, of that's your home, that's your responsibility, this is your job. Then I heard you saying about, well, if you were home and if you were here, you could do this, and if you were there, you could do, you would be caring and you would be helping, and such a level of manipulation and emotional guilt tripping around you not being there and
Yeah.
to take responsibility for your sister. And I really feel for you in it. There's a huge sense of obligation being forced upon you.
Yeah.
Uh,
My parent would love nothing more for me to just leave my husband and move back home and
to
live under
leave your
her roof
husband.
again. Yeah, she just wants me back there to be full-time carer for them both, doing things her way.
How do you feel about that?
I don't like that idea at all.
No, I'm sure.
No. No.
But there seems to be an expectation that you would and should be doing that. Is that right?
There is. It's been an ongoing, what's the word? Standpoint, I suppose, from my parent ever since I moved out of home and moved away, is that you should be here. You need to leave all of that stuff behind and you should be here. Your place is here.
So their entitlement is that you should sacrifice any hope of having any kind of, and I say normal with heavily inverted commas, to be able to support them and look after your sister.
That's right.
Do you see how messed up that is?
I do. And I hate it. I really do. But I struggle with the guilt and the cycles, the hoovering cycles, and the being yelled at, and then we sweep everything under the rug, and it just happens again and happens again. And it always comes down to you need to leave him, you need to leave where you are and come home.
So isn't that even interesting in itself that you need to leave your husband? It's not even, why can't you move nearer to us and then we can help? You know, then you maybe could help us now and
Yeah.
again, and you get to keep your lovely life and husband and career, but could be a bit supportive. It's give everything up, move back in here and be our full-time carer.
Yeah. She doesn't like my husband. I think that she doesn't like that he supports me and has been really instrumental in my healing and seeing things for what they are.
Mm.
And he doesn't play the games. He doesn't help her pick on me when she wants to play pranks. He doesn't, he always
Hang on,
takes
sorry,
my
wait.
side.
Pick on you when she plays pranks? What pranks?
She's got several pranks she likes to play. One is I've got a fear of an insect.
Of what,
And
sorry?
she'll,
A fear of...
an insect, like a bug.
Okay.
And she will give friends and colleagues plastic versions of them to scare me with.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, she does it all the time.
She knows that you've got a phobia
Yeah,
and deliberately puts you in a position where you are going to be scared.
yes. And it's a plastic version of it, and it has pride of place on her shelf. And everyone I ever introduce her to gets introduced to this plastic insect. It's turned up at work. It's turned up in housemates' homes. She's got her little favorite things, and she'll pick on me with them. And
That's sadistic. That's not okay. On any level, that's not okay.
it's really not. And
It's bad enough human to human. From parent to child, weaponizing a
yeah,
fear and
yeah,
encouraging other people to be part of that, including your partner.
yeah. And he said
I'm
no. He
genuinely think this is the most
refused.
revolting thing. I'm so disgusted because, I mean, just as a human, let alone a parent, the idea of exploiting someone's fear for my humour is utterly revolting. I mean, I'm quite scared of. I'm trying to think which ones I'm going to choose, but I'm maybe wasps. I'm going to go with wasps. I don't like wasps very much. I'm one of those people that flips the table when they come nearby, and I run. I really hate them. The idea of someone deliberately putting one near me, I wouldn't have that person in my life again, if they know the level of which I'm scared of a thing, and then they deliberately put that,
Yeah.
like, that's somebody enjoying my pain.
Yeah. And this happens, and she just finds it funny. She just thinks it's a gag, and I keep telling you, like, it's like I have a really big reaction. I don't just go, "Oh, that's scary." I have a meltdown. Like, I freak
Right.
out. Like, and when I do see these particular bugs, I freak out. And my husband's amazing, and he will go and trap it. He'll very kindly say
Oh,
to me, "Don't panic.
yeah.
There's one in the room. It's just over there." And
Okay.
he'll go trap it, and he'll get rid of it for me. But I think because he wouldn't play along with these games, and he wouldn't, take her side with these things. She doesn't like him, and she said some really horrible things about him. And even the night before our wedding, I can't remember the whole details, but for a good hour, she just screamed at me about how horrible he was and how she didn't like him and didn't want him in her life. And so she would love nothing more for me to leave him and come back. And I think that would be a really bad idea, because he's my strength. He's my rock. He's incredible to me. And he doesn't want me to go back to that.
You know why she doesn't like him?
In her version, he's not the perfect son-in-law.
No. Well, okay, let's go with, no, we'll go with that. Sorry. I shouldn't have said no. But let's go with that idea. He's not the perfect son-in-law. What would the perfect son-in-law look like?
Perfect son-in-law would be somebody who was her best friend, that would hang out with her and do things with her.
Her perfect son-in-law would be someone who's her best friend, that would hang
The
out with
son,
her and do things with her.
yeah, be the son that she didn't have.
That's interesting, but also would collude with her around these pranks on you, and she would want them to be closer to her than you.
Yeah, that'd be right.
And your thoughts on that are?
My thoughts on that are that he doesn't want to have anything to do with her, and I'm not going to make him.
That's not a thought on that. That's
That's
an
a statement.
observation. Yeah. What is the thought about her belief that your partner, your husband, should be her best friend, want to hang out with her, and do things with her?
I feel like that's just not how that relationship works.
No.
I mean, I adore his parents, and I'll spend time with his parents, but, I'm not going to. I don't usually hang out with them on my own.
Let's go a bit further then. What do you think about the fact that she wants that from her son-in-law?
I think it's all a bit of control to have me back under the house. If she had someone that was more willing to play her games and to see things her way, then I'd be back there. I think that she sees him as a threat.
And so then her wanting a closer relationship with your husband than you have is what?
Control.
And control is
Power.
the words that is coming into my head, and by all means disagree, but the words that are coming into my head are fucked up, creepy,
Yeah.
weird, odd. That's not, you're right, it's not how that relationship works. It would be lovely if everybody's got a decent enough relationship that the son can be like, oh, I thought I'd come over and do X, Y, Z, or could hang out and be like, yeah, let's go off and I've seen this thing, but not at the cost of their relationship to you.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact that she would rather that your husband was better and friends with and closer and choosing, because it sounds like, it sounds a little bit like she's asking you to step into her role and so she can step into your role. So you become the carer for your sister and she gets to be the partner to a husband.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder whether she's not a little bit jealous of my life
I
because
wouldn't. Yeah.
she's always been a carer for my sister. I don't think she's had as much life, and I've had more experiences, and there's part of me that kind of thinks that like there's a lot of jealousy in the you've been able to have a job, you've been able to do all of this.
Hang on a second. So she's always, I'm just making a couple of notes. She's always been carer for your sister. But you
Yeah.
said that you're 2 years apart. How old are you? Do you mind me asking?
I'm mid-40s.
So you're mid-40s. So how old was she roughly when you were born? Or when your sister was born?
Early 20s.
So early 20s, she had you and then your sister.
Yeah.
And your sister was born. What options was she given in terms of support for looking after your sister?
I think she did a lot of it on her own.
But yeah, but what options was she given?
I'm not sure.
So we're talking
Yeah,
like 80s, 70s and 80s, because you're around the same age as me.
yeah.
So if we're talking the 80s and 90s, things were stepping up in terms of those kinds of supports, right?
I think so. She's always done it on her own.
But she possibly had the choice to use supports.
I'm not sure. She's only really used supports in the last maybe 5 years.
I'm just wondering how much of this has been a martyrdom, essentially.
I
So
think
that
a lot.
right, okay. So that she could say, I've done all this on my own. It's all right for you. You've had this life. You've had that life. And at the same time has been, what's the word? Conditioning you to take over her role when she got too old to do it herself.
That's a big light bulb, but yeah.
Go on, tell me about the light bulb. What's happened?
I think the inner voices in my head, like you just hit it on the nail
Right.
on the head.
In what way?
It's hard to sort of say to people like this is what my mum's like because she's been through so much and she does all this stuff for my sister, but it is always like I look after her. When you just gave those examples then I could have sworn they were coming from her. I've heard her say these things.
Okay, that's fairly huge. How are you feeling?
A bit validated, I suppose.
Okay. What I'm hearing you tell me is just that martyrdom of I've done everything and but an active choice not to use services as a way to be the sacrificial lamb that everyone feels sorry for, but also that you are then easier to manipulate and control because, well, I've done this all on my own and I've done this life and it's all right for you.
Yeah.
Right? And yet she could have used services. She could have used supports. She could have had carers in. She could have had respite holiday places and things like that, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I am sort of assuming a little bit because I don't know what would have been available to her where you are and stuff. But I'm fairly sure if the dependency and the disability is that significant that it's 24-hour care, there's usually assistance put in place of some description. Fair?
So she has got it now, and that's another whole aspect of it too. She's starting to take on a bit of support, but when she was applying for the funding of the support, she says, "Oh, can you proofread this letter for me?" And I proofread it, and she puts in there horrible things about me that I don't support, and I've got nothing to do with my sister, and it's not true. And then she gave that to me to proofread, and I'm like, why would you give that to me?
Okay, answer the question. Why would she give it to you?
To hurt me because I'm not there being the support.
Okay, and why else?
She's being mean and she's weaponizing it.
And trying to what?
Manipulate me
Into
being the carer,
yes.
moving home.
Yeah. That was intentional. That was deliberate.
Intentional. And then at one point I've said to her, like, I need to know who's caring in case there's an emergency. And this was in a phase where she was being a bit kinder to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got invited into the email thread, and I got to sort of know some of those carers, and that was really quite exciting. And I'm like, okay, cool, I've got like an avenue. And then we had a disagreement, and then she's cut me out of that group. 6 months later, I've been put back into the group email because there's been a health issue and I need to help. And then one of them mentions, oh, in the other email. So now I know that there's 2 different groups, and this one that I'm in doesn't get used anymore. So it's this consistent manipulation. And the last time my mum had a health issue, one of the carers really got into me and was like, it's time you came home. You need to, you should be here now. It's time to give all of that up and come home. And then I'm conflicted because
hang on,
my
one
mum,
of the carers said to you, you should be giving everything up and coming home.
Yeah. Now's the time to come home. You need to come home now.
I'm going to go on a limb. And is there any chance that your mother could have been masquerading as that carer?
No, it was definitely a carer.
Oh, okay, you're absolutely sure.
Absolutely sure. Because what happened next was my mother got angry at her for telling me that, which confused me a lot. And I didn't know how to, I'm just like, what?
Wait, so your mother is saying the same thing, but then when someone else
Yeah.
said it, she got angry at her.
Yeah.
But wait, so why does that prove that it wasn't your mother?
Because you can see their email addresses. So I can see who's all the different people.
Right, but are the email addresses like from a particular website? Are they Gmail? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, they're from a business. They're from the support business.
Okay. I'm being very cynical, but it seems just very convenient. And it also seems really inappropriate that a carer would write that.
Yeah. And that's what my mum said. And I'm like, but this is your narrative. Like, and to me, it felt like this is obviously the narrative she tells all the carers, is that I don't want to be involved and I don't care. And then when one of them called me out on it, all of a sudden she's defending me and saying it's not that easy for her to give up her job and rah, rah. And I'm like, but this is your narrative.
Yeah, this is what you say all the time.
So I was and I still am, I'm still really confused. I'm just like, I don't know if it's hoovering, trying to like go, hey, I want to get back in the good books, or, I still, it was a year ago and I still can't answer that question.
I think you've got the answer. You've already answered it.
Yeah. Just accepting it.
Well, I think it sounds like the intention was to destabilize, to be confused, to leave you in this. I mean, this is what gaslighting does, right? Gaslighting is to make you question your perception, your reality, everything. And this idea of she's saying to you in private that you have to do this, and then in public she's saying you have to do that, and then is telling someone off for saying the very same thing that she said. I mean, that is going to confuse you. Well, hang on, wait, what? Because then also, how do you challenge that? How do you say to her, hang on, why did you tell her off for the thing that you've been saying to me all the time without it blowing up to a giant big conflict?
I turn around and go, oh, don't worry about what she's saying. She's obviously worried about you. And I panda my mom.
Uh-huh.
And I just start this whole cycle again.
Okay. So here's the thing. Everything we've spoken about has been that your sister is your responsibility, has been your responsibility from day dot, the moment that you couldn't be responsible for her. You don't remember a time that you weren't conditioned or being conditioned to look after her, or being told you have to look after her. And
That's right.
there was a really interesting, when we were talking at the beginning about a moment where you were saying that when you went away, that you would take over her care because you thought you could do it better.
Yeah.
And what age would you have been for those those points, do you think?
I think I was probably maybe 7 or 8.
7 or 8 years old, and taking over the care of your disabled sibling because you thought you could do it better than what adults.
Yeah. My grandparents really struggled with one of the procedures that we had to do for my sister, and it was always stressful for my sister, whereas I could do it a lot more efficiently in terms of trying to cause less distress to my sister.
Sure.
I started doing it myself because it wasn't distressing for her. But I've been dressing my sister and, helping her eat her dinner and all of that for as long as I can remember.
That's such a lot for a little girl to deal with.
Yeah. But at the same time, I feel guilty because I don't feel like I do enough, or I didn't do enough.
What would enough have been, do you think?
I don't think there ever was enough. I don't think there ever is.
And hence,
Unless I go home and
but
live
even
in her
then,
box.
is that going to even be enough then?
I don't think so, and I think that's why I resist it.
There is such a sadness in this level of self-expectation of I don't do enough. And yet, all I hear is that you were doing and doing and doing. And at 7 and 8 years old, you were doing a procedure on your sister that grown adults could not do competently enough not to cause distress, which just goes to show
Yeah.
how often you were doing it at home.
Yeah.
Because if it's that, so just as a, just to look at this from a sort of outside perspective, you're smiling. What are you smiling? Why are you smiling?
I don't know. I think I'm just nervous.
What are you nervous about? What are you fearful of happening?
That my inner feelings are going to be really validated right now.
And what will that mean?
That it's okay to feel what I feel.
And what would that mean?
That would mean that I think, because I get gaslit a lot, that this is true. I shouldn't have been doing that sort of stuff as a kid, and I shouldn't be pressured into this little box. And I'm starting to see how that affects everything else in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can excel at one thing and I'm still going to think I'm rubbish at it because I'm not doing what I should be doing.
Okay. And so what would it mean then to recognize that level of impact?
I think just validation. Just
I
that.
want, but you're nervous of the validation. And I wonder if there's a fear that if I validate the wrongness of what happened, it means something else in terms of loss. Is there anything that it might cause?
I think that little inner child is just looking at me with big eyes right now. That's what I feel like. I feel like there's a little kid right there looking at me going like, see me, see me.
And she's got big eyes and she wants to be seen, but she's also scared.
I think so.
Because then if you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month, we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls, and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe It's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye.
I don't know. I giggle and smile when I'm nervous.
That's all right. Lots
It's
of
like
people do. Lots of people do. It's a brain misfire, apparently. I did ask Paul, who's the psychologist that I do, and I said, why do I laugh when I'm actually scared or sad or upset or someone gives me bad news? He said, oh, it's just your brain misfiring. It just picks the wrong response. It's a really normal thing. Don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, it is kind of awkward when someone says, so-and-so's died, and I go, and like, you know, but it's not because I find it funny, and it's not because you find it funny. It's deflection, it's defense, it's protection, perhaps as well. So let's go back to it then. You're 7 or 8 years old. You and your sister have been sent to stay with grandparents who your parent knows cannot manage these different procedures that are crucial to her existence, it sounds like. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right? So she has to have these things done to survive. And they're sending her to a place knowing full well your grandparents can't do it, which in turn therefore means that you will have to do it. But you are so adept at doing it. Why are you so adept at doing it that you can do it when a grown adult can't, and you can do it without just causing any distress? Why would a 7 or 8-year-old be that good at doing that thing?
Because I did it all the time.
Right. And what does that mean?
Always helped. Always
Helped?
protected her.
Helped? Protected? Or
Conditioned, maybe?
there's a very big difference between saying, could you just hold this while I do this? Right? There's a very big difference as a parent asking an able/capable older child to do something whilst they do something with the younger child, regardless of ability, disabilities or not. And a child being so responsible for a thing, how often were you doing that procedure on your own at home, is my question.
Can't really remember now, but maybe at least once a week. More when I was getting older, but at least once a week. I remember helping all the time. So probably for at least once a day, I was at least helping.
Okay. So once a day minimum, you are helping with this procedure.
Yeah.
So she needed external help and support, but didn't get it. Chose not to get it.
Yeah. Until recently.
Until recently.
I think COVID did a lot for that because I couldn't travel during COVID.
And so she had to get help because you weren't on tap to demand.
Yeah.
And so the fear is now, if you put boundaries in and say, look, I'm not going to look after my sister, I'm not coming home, I'm not going to do all these things you demand of me, that you will lose that relationship with your sister.
It's more that it's more that as things get bad between me and my mum, she weaponizes those things. I keep wanting to have conversations about the future, about putting some legality into the future. And it gets weaponized, it gets dismissed, and she refuses to make any ideas because in her head, I would move my sister to where I am now, where I have a stable life, a stable job, a stable income to be able to give her a life of support. And because it's not what my mother wants, she won't give me these things. And then she'll give me discard and she'll give me silent treatment, and then she'll pull me back in because she will give me an update about my sister or a health update or a, hey, let's talk about this future planning.
Mm.
So I come back in because I'm like, great, I get to make a plan for my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have a disagreement about something and then discard again. And it's getting to the point now where I want to go a lower contact for my own sanity,
Mm-hmm.
but that will cost having any say in what my sister's future will be.
And what say would you like to have?
I would like to have a legal say. At this point, I feel like if something happened to my mum tomorrow, that my sister would end up in state, like government care, and I wouldn't have a say. I wouldn't get to see her. I don't know who any of her current carers are. I just feel like I would just not be given any information or anything.
Well, is that legally true?
It will be if she puts somebody else in as a guarantor or if it comes down to like a government tribunal.
Have
I could
so.
potentially.
Do you know this for a fact, or is this assumption? Have you looked into the legal law around it?
Yeah, I have had a bit of a look into it. And it could be a possibility because, as far as anybody who's involved in her current care now knows the narrative that I don't care and I don't want to be a part of her life because I get punished with that.
I
And
just
it's
wonder,
very,
because I would have thought, I don't know, because I don't know the legal system where you are, but I would have thought that if your mother were to die tomorrow, you become next of kin. And regardless of anything else, you would have the greatest say in what then happened. Is that not
that's what
true?
I don't think it will be true because I don't know who any of the people who put in her care are. I don't know who any of them are who, they're making plans without me. And it's
Right.
really hard to reconciliate with that upbringing of this is your job, this is your role, and the guilt trips of you need to do this. But then anytime I bring it up, she'll just bring up something from the past to cause a conflict or get angry at me for something, and then she pulls that away again. And then anytime she wants to be back in, she'll be like, let's talk about it, let's make these plans.
So she is 100% weaponizing and using this to manipulate and control you.
100%.
So she knows how much it bothers you. And your preference is that were something to happen, that your sister would come and live near you in a facility so you could visit and support. And is that right?
Either that or she'd live with me and still have those supports
Okay.
because I can provide a home, I can provide income because I have a job, but I
Mm-hmm.
can work around that.
Is that because you want it
There's,
or because you feel obliged to or too guilty not to? It's a huge responsibility, a huge pressure, a huge constraint then.
don't really know how to answer that. There's part of me does and part of me doesn't. It's
Is your sister able to communicate what she would want?
no.
No. And yet, so I'm just trying to understand a little bit because I also recognize that if we disclose too much, it's going to be identifying, and I don't want that for you. But my query is, were she in a good facility that was like nice and she was being well looked after, would it not be more enriching and stimulating and kind of fun almost for her, a better quality of life than to be at home on her own with carers without, without that
Yeah,
enrichment?
yeah, I definitely support that.
Right. So in a funny way, your mother's almost doing her a disservice by not allowing her that enrichment, that life, that kind of group living situation.
Yeah, I see a lot of backwards in my sister, but I don't know if that's related to her health issues. But yeah, I think they need each other too much. They're too interlinked to be able to. I don't think my mum would cope not being her carer, and I don't think my sister would cope without having mum around.
How do you know that, just out of interest?
Because my mum's life revolves around my sister.
What about your sister?
I'm not sure.
Because
She doesn't
go on.
really express emotions, so it's hard to know what she feels.
And she can't verbally communicate, or she can't
Not
communicate at all?
very poorly.
Okay. So actually, it's more that your mother is needing your sister than the other way around, potentially.
John's, I think so. My
'Cause-
sister's her whole identity.
yeah, that is literally what I was just thinking, is her entire identity is about looking after your sister. And then I was thinking that it's such a brilliant way to manipulate you and others into feeling sorry for her, to give her things, to not have to be responsible for her own life and her own. I mean, does she have a job? Does she have any kind of external life around other than your sister?
No, she's just my sister. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, "Oh, I didn't realize she had another daughter."
Oh, Isabel, that's awful. How did that make you feel?
I've been feeling invisible for a long time, so yeah, I'm
You
there when
know,
I'm needed.
have you heard of the term glass children?
Yes, I relate to that a lot.
Yeah. Those that don't know, that are listening, the glass child is the sibling of an invisible child who becomes see-through because the disabled child becomes the center of the entire family operation, and it's almost like you're an invisible child unless demanded to look after this child, and then you suddenly become very visible if you say no
Yeah,
or don't want to.
don't fit the box.
I'm going to just I want well, I wonder if you understand what healthy, and I say healthy with inverted commas, what, in terms of a child's upbringing around a disabled child, what the boundaries should, I hate the word should, look like in order for a child that is not disabled to be able to not be overwhelmed by that need from the disabled child.
Yeah, I don't. I I sometimes see other. I sort of see two types of siblings where like either they have absolutely nothing to do with the other one's care
Hmm.
and they have very separate lives, and I sort of question how does that work. And then I see other ones that have very enriching lives and they do outings and they do all these things together, and that just fills me with absolute guilt.
Because you feel like you should be doing that.
I feel like I should be doing that, and instead I'm choosing my own mental health when it comes to things of my mum over being that good sister.
A good sister, that's an interesting phrase. What makes a good sister?
Someone who protects and looks after and doesn't let her go through anything bad.
Protects, looks after her, doesn't let her go through anything bad. She's very vulnerable, clearly, your sister. And I recognise that when somebody's that vulnerable, there's a danger that there are people that can exploit that vulnerability. Mm. And I would see maybe your mother is doing that actually herself, which is interesting, because normally we would think of external people, doing awful things. But it's fascinating that to be a good sister, you have to be the one that's protecting her and looking after her. And yet, I mean, what is he like? Even a good sister, that's such a subjective arbitrary thing that usually is about meeting an adult's demand of a child rather than a self-placed expectation. Do you think
Yeah.
that's, yeah?
Well, I just don't think we had the same relationship as other kids. Like, I see other brothers and sisters fighting and bickering over stuff, and we just never had that. It was just, you know,
So how could you have had that kind of a relationship with your sibling, of the kind of bickering, sibling fighting, but also like close and then fighting? How could you have had that with her disabilities at play?
couldn't.
Right. So the only relationship you could have is one where she would be dependent on you and you would be caring for her.
That's right.
So to be a good sister, the only one, the only relationship, or the only way you could be a good sister would be to be her carer.
Yeah, to be her carer and protector.
How fair is that on a small child, even an adult child?
Yeah, I continued into being teenage when my parents' relationship fell apart, and having to be the peacekeeper between them. I have to have my dad and my mum have their communication through me, to the point that, my dad pick us up for visits that, I wouldn't let mum out the house because they'd just sit there and argue for an hour. And I had my own phone at that stage, so, if dad wanted to visit, he'd message me and I would organise it. So
This
I've
is
always
so
just,
grossly unfair.
so I always have to look after her. And yeah, the more that things fall apart with mum, the less that I can look after her, and the more she just weaponizes that and just doesn't let me have those conversations and doesn't let me come with that plan. And it's hard. It's hard to let go of that guilt of, this is who I should be. This is what I'm supposed to be. And like I sort of said to myself, like about a year ago, I think it was, like, I give up. If I walk away, it's not just giving up this relationship. If I walk away, it is giving up everything to do with my sister, which is everything that I am.
That feels very all or nothing.
It does feel that way.
Because again, I go to the place of when your mother dies and you are next of kin. Is your father alive still? Is he involved at all? Or was...
He's still alive, but unfortunately the relationship between both my parents has deteriorated severely, that they have zero contact now.
And so he doesn't have anything to do with your sister either?
He's not allowed to.
Because of her, or because of the courts, or because...
Because my mum, he won't engage with my mum anymore. And I think he's taken that aspect of, I won't engage with her anymore, which means I lose my daughter.
Okay, so you've seen this in real time, that if you refuse to do what your mother wants, she will just prevent any kind of contact with your sister.
Yeah. I think
Did
my
your
dad
dad go to
avoids that.
court, or did your dad, like, how did he respond to that kind of behavior?
I think he's protected his mental health in that aspect. He's always given my mum what she wanted. So the terms of custody in the past help. Their relationship fell down over money, but he's always given her what she wanted until this last argument.
Okay. I'm coming back because I'm a little bit conscious of time and I want to come back to this guilt. Guilt because you don't care for you won't give up your life and move back and be what your mother demands. Guilt
Yeah.
because you're not being a, and very inverted commas, good sister. Guilt because what else? It makes you a bad person.
Yeah. If I was a good person, I'd give all of this up and I would go home and be miserable and live under that house.
And who does that guilt benefit?
My mum.
Right. It's been programmed into you. It's conditioned into you.
Yeah.
A friend of mine told me the other day, it was really interesting, actually. They did not grow up in one of these systems. They just, it's very different. They have no real concept of what my experience was like or any of my clients' experiences were like. Even though it was strict, there were expectations. The shame, humiliation, punishment, guilt, weaponizing was not used against them. And it's really interesting because I said to him, oh, this situation had happened and I felt guilty. And it was a situation with a stranger. And he was like, why would you feel guilty? And I was like, oh, because, and he was like, guilt's a pointless emotion. It serves absolutely no purpose. Well, I feel like it tells me when I'm acting outside my value system and my belief system. And he's like, okay, fine. But to this degree, when it's a stranger, they've got no second thought of you. Why? It's kind of arrogant that you believe that you have this much impact on another person. And it was like, oh, what? You can't say that. Kind of going, oh my God. And then was kind of going, hang on. This is what they teach us, that we have this omnipotent power over how they believe, how our choice, our freedom, our not being in servitude and deference to them at all times impacts them so negatively that we're being destructive by meeting our needs before theirs.
Yeah.
Right? That we have this huge ability to affect how they feel, how they perceive themselves, yada, yada, yada. And yet, nothing we ever do is good enough to alleviate that responsibility, that guilt,
Yeah.
which in turn shows you that it's entirely weaponized for their benefit, because we're constantly in these systems trying to be good enough so we don't have to feel guilt, right? Because under that guilt is the shame of being a terrible human being. And yet your guilt is about not being a good sister. And then there's the fear of, if I put myself first, not only does that make me selfish and evil and all those terrible things, it means that I lose the relationship with my sister forever.
Yeah.
But the relationship is one of dependency. And you've been taught that your relationship is based on you being in servitude to her, your sister as well.
Yeah.
Right? And yet the level of responsibility that you were given as a child to look after her is so disgustingly, outrageously, overwhelmingly big and should not have happened. In an ideal world, when I asked you about the healthy boundaries for a child and in a system or a situation where one of the children is disabled to this degree, in an ideal world, we teach them empathy and understanding and compassion, but we make it very clear it's not their responsibility to look after that child. We hold a boundary despite them wanting to be in it, and we don't punish them for wanting to live a separate life. We push, we actually probably ideally are pushing them into autonomy of go and live your life. This is not your choice. This is not your responsibility. If I have two children and one is disabled to that point of dependency, my job as a parent is to make sure that the non-disabled child does not feel the obligation to oppress their own life for the benefit of the sibling, right? But
Yeah.
to involve them as much as they want to be as an adult, particularly, while still making it clear this is not your obligation. Now, it might be some kids are like, oh, it's okay, I want to do it, but it's got to be their choice. And it might be, as you have witnessed, some children go, I don't want that responsibility. Because as the parent, it was my choice to have those children. It wasn't the children's choice for me to have those children. And therefore, I have to provide the system and the framework and the care for the disabled child, regardless of age, but especially as they get older and I get older and maybe I'm not around, right?
Yeah.
But your mother appears to just weaponize it against you over and over again in order to punish you, to make you comply.
Yeah. That's how I
And
feel.
I'm going to go back to what you told me about the bugs and the fake bug. At that point, we're talking sadism. That is disgusting. She knows it hurts you. You've asked her not to do it. And not only does she know it hurts you and continues to have it on a shelf, she tries to get people to collude with her in putting you into a panic state,
Yeah.
constantly trying to erode you, to
Yeah.
exert and show how much power and control she can have over you and your life.
That's right. And then when I stand up to it, I get the discard and I get the silent treatment.
Okay.
That just makes that shame and guilt feel even heavier.
Right. And so it seems like there's two choices. And one is, well, actually, maybe there's more than two. I'm saying two quite confidently, and maybe there's more. One is the first being looking into your legal rights as her sister and what happens so that you are prepared in the end when your mother dies or whatever happens. And the second is not allowing her to have that level of control or power over you.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you know what that would look like.
I feel like sometimes I get glimpses, and then anytime I feel like I get that glimpse, she'll do something to pull me back in, and she'll tell me something about my sister, or she'll find something that's an interest. And at the moment, she's just told me she's proud of me, and that's just like, I don't understand. And then
Well, what purpose does it serve?
manipulates me.
It's breadcrumbing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some affection so you come crawling back. You think
Yeah.
I'm safe again. You think that you're going to finally get from me what you've been asking for.
I think the word that comes to mind when you say it that way is toxic hope.
Yeah. She weaponizes it.
It's something I listen to when you talk about it in your other podcasts and on the website, and like every time I just say, yeah, it's toxic hope.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, definitely there.
And so what then do we need to kill? What do we have to face for the toxic hope to die?
Shame, I think.
Shame?
The guilt.
What about the grief?
Yeah, true. I hadn't thought about the grief.
Well, for me, toxic hope is denial of the situation, the reality, the behavior. And then denial is avoidance of grief. Because if I look at this and recognize how disgusting and unfair it was, and how my mother tried to condition me to be her identity as much as my sister is, then I have to accept that I had no power in the first place. I had no say in anything in the first place. And then I have to look at what I lose as a result.
Yeah. That's very much the question at the moment. What will I gain? What will I lose?
Yeah. And what outcome will it actually change? What will it cost me? What will I gain? What will it change the outcome?
Yeah.
When it comes to looking after your sister, I mean, even then, what will it cost you? What will you gain? Will it change the outcome? Your mother has also conditioned you to believe that the only way she should be cared for is by one person all the time, and only recently bringing in outside caring. I'm still not convinced that she didn't set up that carer to, even if it wasn't her that did it, whether or not she told the carer, manipulated the carer into saying it to you about being that you need to come back and stuff, to then be able to defend you, to make you think that she's on your side, or
Yeah.
there's
So you
something
question that a lot. There's something there, isn't there?
well, look, it's a flying monkey attack.
Yeah.
Why on earth would a carer say that unless they're hearing some sort of narrative?
Yeah.
Not their
Exactly.
position or place, is it?
No.
So it's about just conscious of time and thinking about what you needed from today and whether or not you feel like you've got it. And if not, what else you might need.
No, thank you. I'm trying to find the right words. I don't think I'd looked at it from a perspective of how my childhood was and how I was programmed. I
Right.
don't think I've looked at it or considered it from that. I've always considered from the you're not being a good enough sister to not think about those other things, like what ultimately is the best outcome for my sister. You know, is it
Yeah.
being at home? Is it being in a, like, with other people? And I guess that, I can't think of the right words, but just a different perspective, a perspective of a different view, I guess, because the main people I have to talk about it sort of know everybody, and just looking at it from a non-disabled family point of view, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I wonder if we reframe that question of not being a good enough sister rather to not being a good enough parent.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it seems really unfair that a sibling who is also still growing and learning and forming is being told they're not good enough because they're not doing enough,
Yeah.
when that was never their job or responsibility.
Wasn't that autonomy?
No. And yeah, what is right for your sister? What is the best thing? Because actually, even that decision is subjective. From, your mother has used that choice and then weaponized your sister against everybody, including your father,
Yeah,
and weaponized you, I might point out. You have been hugely weaponized.
I feel that way too.
Okay,
And
good. Because it's
it's
not
hard because
fair.
you
Go on.
you want to protect her at the same time, but at the same time, it's like I can feel that I've been weaponized, and I feel that my emotions are very heavily weaponized.
Right. And then put in the position of having to navigate things between you and your mother, him and his mother, your mother and your father.
Yeah,
Look at the ways in which your mum is being a puppet master and using your sister as a way to do that.
that
You
makes a lot
know.
of sense. Thank you.
Okay. My pleasure, Isabel. Look, in any questions at all, always just come back, ping me emails. I am here to answer. If things bubble up and you think, oh, I wish I'd asked that, by all means, send me an email and I will get back to you on it. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on and exploring this. Especially, I think, as you said in your submission, it's not talked about. There is such guilt and sadness and grief and fear that by protecting yourself, you lose that relationship with that sibling. And sometimes that is going to be a cost. And it's about where you make peace with that, but also where we're blindly accepting narratives just because that's what we've been conditioned to believe,
Yeah,
And in this situation, I would question how much you've been told that benefits them and their, or rather your mother, and her demand or desire or entitlement at the cost of your own. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, lovely.
Thank you for opening that dialogue. I
That is my
appreciate
total
it.
pleasure. Thank you. All right. Well, on that note, as ever, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Isabel, for being here. And all that remains to be said is take care. Bye.
Bye.